And then you're left with, you know, as I say, I'm not going to talk about what screen printing is. If this looks totally crazy to you, then go and find out what it is. It's pretty interesting. The process hasn't changed for like 1,000 years, and it's really time intensive. But it creates work that is just so much nicer than soulless digital rubbish. You know, there's a texture and there's a. I'm going to say that because that's what I make, but it is really good. So you end up with a giant stack of posters. The band takes a load and they sometimes get sold for a gig, or you take a load and they don't sell, or they do sell, or you shred them and you make a nest, or whatever you want to do with them. And that's kind of how it all works. At least it's kind of supposed to. It doesn't always work like that, and it doesn't always work. So as an example of a poster job gone wrong, I'll tell you a little story about. I got asked to do a job for basically a female artist who is, excuse me whilst I have a drink, probably one of the most successful female artists in the world from the UK. I'm not going to say who it is, but you can probably guess. So management got in touch, and it was through this merchandising company, and I was just thinking, wow, this is a big gig. They wanted a poster for her gig at the Royal Albert Hall. They're probably going to print a few thousand of them. And they gave my first kind of warning signal to management. Their description of what they wanted was ropey. It was like buzzwords. It was kind of like, we want independent, you know. It was like strong female solo artists. I just started thinking, these guys, this is real management speak. This is going to be a tough gig because I already know what it's like dealing with band management. I thought they're probably not going to know what they want, but I had a good idea that would be a really nice aesthetic that would work. It's like you hire a designer, so trust your designer to have an idea. So I had an idea. I didn't just show one, I showed them like a couple. They didn't like it. They couldn't really say why, they just didn't. I showed them like 5 in the end, and they didn't like those. I kind of said, you know, you've already seen what the kind of work I make is. You should know sort of how it looks. What do you want? I'm making stuff that is in the remit of what you've kind of employed me to do. I said, okay, here's some American artists have made some posters. Look at these, and they sent me like 2 or 3 examples of other posters that they also didn't like, but that they said were a little bit closer to what they wanted. Right, so this is what I have to go on. And I reach a point, I think, you know, should I give up, or should I just keep chasing payments, even if it goes nowhere? And I kind of just told them, I had to write a little bit faster down this end of the room and then kind of ripples down there. Like I basically have to write a very diplomatic email that says, you guys have no idea what you want, unfortunately. I'd love to design something to you, but you know, I'll take the kill fee and we'll just kind of call it quits. The kill fee, by the way, if that is a new phrase to you, is money that you get paid for the work you've done up until a point. You don't kind of reach a point where they don't like it, so you just think, oh well, I've wasted a few weeks, like you still get paid for some of the work you've done. And that's just sometimes the way those jobs go. So that as far as I know, no poster for the Royal Albert Hall gig was ever produced. The management is still out there somewhere pestering some other artist, hoping that they can create something. You know, if you go on to do design work, you're going to deal with situations like that, and they're a pain in the arse. But it is your mark as a good designer of how you deal with it. You can't, you know, be angry. Some people don't really know what they want. So that is kind of the process. I'm going to talk about some posters now. 3. I've made more than 3, but I'm just going to show you 3. I kind of didn't want to bring a load of my work in and just share. It's kind of self-indulgent, and it's kind of, like I say, relevant to you. You've got your own tastes and you want to make your own stuff, but I'm going to talk about 3 of mine and why they're kind of either fun or important, or I was pleased to do them, or whatever. So the first one is this one. I brought the actual poster in as well as on the screen. It's for a band called The Hold Steady from Minneapolis in America, and they've been a bit quiet of late, but they're kind of one of my favourite bands for a while. Really wanted to do some work with them. The idea behind the poster was that I would cheaply shoehorn in as many band references as I could in the effort to kind of get maximum exposure to fans. I kind of thought it's fun for me to listen to a bunch of the songs and decide on what the references were. If you've heard the band, some of it might be obvious. If you haven't, it's crazy, but anyway. And I kind of thought the fans would enjoy picking stuff out, and the poster did pretty well. The band were happy with it. In fact, the singer, Craig Finn, very kind of witty guy, great lyricist, great writer. A book came out a while ago, Rock Paper Show, which, if you mentioned about the flat stock shows, the exhibitions, this kind of documents the first 20 of them. And it's kind of an amazing read, and especially to have been part of some of those events. Going back to kind of this idea that we're creating artifacts that document a time and a place. Anyway, so the editor of the book, asked Craig Finn, the singer of The Hold Steady, to write about a musician's perspective on all these geeks and nerds making posters. And what, does he think that's cool? Does he sort of just, chew them up and stick them in the storage somewhere? Anyway, he wrote, I'm going to read some of what he wrote, but he wrote a really amazing thing from the musician's perspective, but he also decided to talk about 3 of his favourite posters of The Hold Steady, one of which I was incredibly honoured that he chose one of mine. So this, when the book, I kind of knew beforehand when the book came out, and I got sent a copy. So I'll just read you, not the whole thing, because it's quite a lot, but this is what he wrote about it. So he said, this one captures an untold number of images pulled from the Hold Steady lyrics. I tried to create an alternate universe of sorts in our songs, and this poster illustrates what that universe might look like. It overwhelmed everyone in the band when we first saw it. These references to Hold Steady lyrics might not mean anything to most people, but to me, this poster makes me feel like there's something special that exists between our band and our fans, who happen to be very attentive listeners. I don't remember this show, but I remember the tour. It was freezing and damp and everything you might expect from winter in England. It was also a ton of fun. This one hangs above my desk now and helps me recall the fun days and nights of that tour rather than the cold, dreary times. So it's like this weirdly, after a period of time of making posters, it never really occurred to me that I always just kind of thought the band is the kind of thing that you use for inspiration and you're really making a connection with other fans of music. And then all of a sudden I just thought, no, actually, like, you're also connecting with the band. And for him to kind of summarise that and me to suddenly think, this is even, it's like you're able to be part of, if you have music that means an awful lot to you, and you also, you're no longer just a kind of listener or a bystander, you're almost like a participant in what is happening there. You're creating something that the band sees and that the band owns and has a part of. So a few months later, sure enough, a friend of mine sent me like a link to some blog like about apartments of just artists and different people, and it was about Craig Finn, and it just showed a picture of one of his rooms, and there was my poster like framed in his room. I was blown away, and again, one of those little reminders where I just thought, this is, this isn't everything that I do, and like I say, there's not a ton of money in it, but there's some point to it, that there's something here that it's worth continuing with.